Hey everyone, so today we're going to be learning from lesson 2. In the previous video, we learned from lesson 1 in week 2, where we were comparing decimals and we were just introducing the idea that decimals can be less than or greater than 1. And we also briefly discussed the place value chart and used it to help us figure out where to place these decimals and how to write them. So today we're going to be following up on those ideas. We're still comparing decimals, but our key idea today is that decimals are just another way of writing fraction amounts. So we're going to use this place value chart when we're looking to convert a fraction into a decimal or to write a decimal into a fraction. So a lot of what we're doing is just going back and forth between the two different forms. We have some examples to our left over here in the key idea section. And so we see in our key idea area that the fraction 7/10 can also be written as 0.7 as a decimal. Okay, so notice 7/10. That would be the 7 we would have got from the 10th spot, and we wrote a 10 in the denominator because this spot in the place value chart is the 10th spot. So that tells us that we would have a 10 in our denominator. So anytime you see like 7/10, please know it would go in this spot here. So when we're writing our decimal, it would be 0 because there's no whole number, point. Sorry, I made a mistake there. Okay, so it would be written 0.7, okay? Because this number would go right after the decimal since it's in the 10th spot. Same if we saw like 3/10, right? We would know that this would be written as 0.3. This 3 is in the 10th spot in our place value chart, okay? So using this place value chart will help you in converting a fraction into a decimal or vice versa. So if I saw, for example, 0.8, I would write this as a fraction 8/10. Okay, since this 8 is in the 10th spot, the way that you say it is the way that you write it. So if I say this as 8/10, I would write this as 8/10. And then they give you another example over here. The fraction 7/100, 7/100ths, can be written as the decimal 0.07. Okay, remember, the way that we say it is the way that we write it. So 7/100ths, well, the 100th spot is right over here. So if I'm saying 7/100ths, well, I know that there must have been a 0 in the 10th spot here, and my decimal, sorry, these words are getting in the way, and there's no whole numbers. So 7/100ths means 0.07. Okay. So when reading and writing fractions, it is often helpful to look at a place value chart, as we said. And so the number right here is, we would read this number as 12 and 345 thousandths. Okay, that's a lot right there. 12, our whole number, 12. And remember, we say a decimal as and 345 thousandths. Okay, we say thousandths at the end because this 5 is in the thousand spot. So because whatever spot our number ends in, that's what we're going to say in the end. So if I were to write this as a fraction, 12 and 345 thousandths, remember the way that we say it is the way we write it. So 12, and when I get to the and, that means I'm going to make my fraction 345 thousandths. Okay, again, because this 5 is in the thousand spot, that tells me what I should have in my denominator. So the 5 is in the thousand spot. That means I'm going to have 1,000 in my denominator over here. All right, so let's practice. So we're in the try this section. Again, this is, I didn't get the page number. This is page 20. So page 20 in your math workbooks. We are going to write the following fractions as decimals, and we're going to use the place value chart if we need it. But again, it really is helpful when we're trying to convert a fraction into a decimal. And remember, we're not changing the value of these numbers, we're just going in between forms. So 11 hundredths. Well, the 1 ends in the hundredth spot, right? That's why we wrote 100 in the denominator. So let's see where the hundredth spot is in our place value chart. Hundredths is right here. So the 1 ended in the hundredth spot, and we know there was a 1 before it, so we're going to write that in the 10th spot. So 11 hundredths is written like this in the place value chart. So, and of course, we can't forget our 0 because there's no whole number. So 0.11 or 0.11 or 11 hundredths. So 0.11. Okay, number 2. 144 thousandths. Okay, so the number we ended with was a 4, and that tells me it's in the thousand spot. Remember, whatever our denominator is, that tells us what spot in the place value chart it is. So 144 thousandths. Well, here's the thousandths, right? And my 4 ended in the thousandths, so I'm going to put a 4 here. And then I know that I have 144, so I can fill this in, 144. The 4 ends in the thousandths, that's why we write 144 thousandths. Okay, and don't forget your 0 to tell you that there is no whole number, so 0.144. Okay, this one we would say as 1 and 234 thousandths. Okay, that's how you would say it, 1 and 234 thousandths. Now we have a whole number. Okay, this is our whole number. This whole thing is called a mixed number, by the way. So we have a whole number. Whole number is going to go, let me use a different color as well. Whole number is going to go right here in the 1 spot, right? So we have a 1, and here's our decimal, 234 thousandths. So I could just fill this out after the decimal, 234 thousandths. Okay, and check. We know that our denominator says thousandths, so we know that our number should end in the thousandths spot. Okay, so the 4 should be going in the thousandths spot. So 1 and 234 thousandths. So that means our decimal is 1.234. All right, so that's all you had to do for this section and for those numbers and how to convert them from a fraction to a decimal. Now you're going to go to page 21 and try this on your own. You have your own practice, so write the following numbers in standard notation using decimal form. So this time, instead of just giving you the fraction written as a fraction, right, they wrote out the words for you. So 3 and 23 hundredths. Remember when we were doing number 3 on this page, and I kind of wrote it like this for you, and I said, hey, this is, you would say this as 1 and 234 thousandths. Well, here in our number worlds, they say 3 and 23 hundredths. So where you see this and, let's see if it'll let me write on here. Where you see this and, that tells us that to the left of here, 3, that's a whole number. So we have a mixed number, 3 and 23 hundredths. Okay, so you need to put this in the place value chart. You can use the chart over here to help you or use this one. You also need to use that one for the reflection section though. So just be mindful of that. But you can create your own place value chart, but you need to turn this into a decimal. So 3 and 23 hundredths. Remember what we said. Here's our whole number, a 3, and it's our decimal, 23 hundredths. So we know that the 3 is in the hundredth spot. Here's the hundredth spot. So 3 and 23 hundredths. So our decimal is 3.23. Our 3 should end in the hundredth spot, which it does. And you can check your work if you used a place value chart. So you're just going through and going to be changing these words, also fractions or mixed fractions, into decimals. Okay. As always, please let Mr. Schmidt or I know if you have any questions.